No matter where you come from, no matter where you're going, here's a place where you can take comfort in the knowing that whether if you've come to stay a while or just passing through, this door is open to you. Come and let's be silent. Come and share a hug. Come, let's pray together. Come, love and be loved. From the blissed out to the turned out, from the pampered to the abused, this door is open to you. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. The God in us recognizes the God in you. The God in you. Whether you're black or white, gay or straight, Christian, Buddhist or Jew, this door is open to you.
Talking about, as Eddie Watkins says, this door is open for you, and this virtual door is open for each and every one of you. Those that are in the building, would you turn and wave to our live streamers, very much a part of our community that are joining us from wherever you are. So thank you for being here today. Today is a very special day. It's the culmination of what we've been calling Homecoming Weekend. I have seen some of you Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I think some of you set up a cot somewhere near around here because I've seen you a lot all weekend. It's been such a beautiful weekend, and we get to sort of culminate that today and then enjoy a fabulous meal. If you're not in this room, if you walked in this building, how many of you smelled this incredible, delicious food and aroma that is already in the air and enticing us this morning? Let's begin our time together this morning in prayer. As we turn our awareness within, we do so in that spirit of gratitude, in that spirit of what we call homecoming. We all know what it is to celebrate that feeling of arriving wherever you call home, your safe place, your place of love, the place where you are totally held and accepted and embraced and nurtured, a place where you can lay yourself down and be lifted in that very act. Today we celebrate what it is to come home to our own self in our physical body, in our entire being, in our holy presence, individually and collectively. We celebrate this together. We ask that we would be blessed and that we would be a blessing. And for that we give thanks. And so it is. Amen. Thank you again for being here this special homecoming weekend. We had a concert Friday night. How many of you were here? It was just that we had an incredible time, and one of the people who helped us rock, it was so much fun. A lot of fun. One of the people who helped rock this place was Rhoda Weaver. Rhoda, would you come on up? And this amazing Unity band, yeah. We're so blessed to have Dave, Richard, Joel, Joey, and Pete with us, who just anchor this incredible music in every Sunday for us right here in a beautiful way. While people are still coming in this morning, I asked Rhoda if she would kick us off with a song that you're going to know, and we'll hope you're going to sing along. It's called Put a Little Love in Your Heart.
Y'all can't tell me y'all don't know this. Think of your fellow man, lend him a helping hand. Put a little love in your heart. Mercy is getting late. Oh, please don't hesitate. Put a little love in your heart. And the world
Peter. Put a little love in your heart. She's going to be back in just a few minutes to sing a Lauren Daigle song. This morning when I came in, there was such a presence. Richard, would you give us a little music to share what we're going to share? There was such a presence in this place. When I came in, I literally started crying. And I looked around, and Bobby, the board president, was crying. And we went in Christy's office, and she was crying. And I said, we have got to get ourselves together. The service has not even started. And we just looked at each other, and I just said, the presence of love is so strong in here. I literally was smelling garlic and bread and feeling love and just crying before it got started. And I want you to look around this room because you are that you make it that. We set this weekend, the first weekend this weekend in October, 7, 8 night, to be homecoming weekend. People have been asking, are we going to have a homecoming weekend every year? Or are we going to do this again? And the answer is yes. Yeah, we're going to be doing this again. And what inspired it, many things have inspired it, but when COVID happened, it really made all of us realize how so often we take for granted the joy of being able to come together, the joy of having a community. And that time also taught us that you can also have a virtual community. We have people in this room. If you watch us primarily via live stream and you're here today, would you please stand? And there's many more here online that are tuning in right now that are not here, and they don't need to be here because they're here in spirit. They join in, and we're creating something. But what I got to witness firsthand, it would just really touch me this week, was talking to one person who joins us primarily online, who met another person who joins us online, and now there's some of them that are really close friends who have never even met in person, some of them meeting for the first time this weekend. I got to meet Eileen Hogan. Eileen, would you stand? Who was in my very first church in Lawrence, Kansas, and made the trek all the way over. And so we want to extend a special welcome to those of you that have driven or flown some distance to be here. And if it's your first time and you are thinking, why does this church smell like garlic and why are these people so happy today? Come back. We're like this pretty much every Sunday, just not the food so much. But any of you, if it's your first time here, if you raise your hands, we want to extend a welcome card to you. And there's a heart that you can wear. If you're out of town and you want to raise your hand as well, any that are primarily out of town, raise your hand and let us get one of these hearts to you so that we can extend a warm welcome to you. So just keep your hand up until they find you. I also want to acknowledge our young people this morning. We have a great youth ed program with Reverend Gabby Michael and Reverend Barbara Ann. Both of these individuals create such sacred space for our young people. Our young people and children are going to be heading back to Sunday school. And we extend a blessing to them that says, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the divinity in you. Would you join me in extending that to them? We love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the divinity in you. Have a wonderful Sunday school program. And then I will ask you, before Reverend Christy is going to make some announcements, and Bobby Flowers, our board president, if you have not yet turned your cell phone off, it really helps with just the airwaves and individual sensitivity. If you put your phone on airplane mode or turn it off, we greatly appreciate that. Reverend Christy has a few announcements, and then Bobby Flowers, our board president, would you welcome both of these amazing people with us? A couple of announcements.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Reverend Christy. I'm the Associate Minister here at Unity of the Blue Ridge. My honor to always be of service to this community. And the one thing that we've got coming up that we are really excited about and are inviting you to is our first town hall meeting following the service on November 6th. That's the first Sunday in November. So it's an opportunity to come hear about what's going on the inside all the wonderful things happening with our community, a way to come together to support this community. And we've got some exciting things to share with you. So please mark your calendars for first Sunday in November, directly following our Sunday service town hall meeting. It's the first one we've had in a few years.
And just a reminder, it will be available on live stream. We'll let all of our live streamers know how you can tune in. And you don't want to miss it, because one of the things we're discussing is it now time for us to go solar? So we want you to be here and be part of that conversation among some other things. So it's an exciting conversation. Bobby Flowers, our board president, was one of the many volunteers. If you have been a part of this weekend, this homecoming retreat, if you have volunteered, if you've planned, if you've hosted someone, would you please stand and let us acknowledge you as being part of the creative process for this weekend. We want to thank all of you for that.
And as Reverend Darlene said, I am Bobby Flowers Owenby, the board president. And first off, I just want to thank all of you, not just our volunteers, but all of you, because all of you have made this happen this weekend. Our volunteers were extremely important. And of course, the staff. The staff are amazing here, and they just make sure that everything goes just a smooth flow. And it is so, so appreciated. And this morning when I came in, like Reverend Darlene said, the energy was so strong and you could just feel the love that I just started crying. You know, part of that I think may have been Sharon's thing she did out there yesterday. She said we'd all feel different today, and believe me, we do. So. But one of the announcements I wanted to make to everyone had been asking me how much money we would raise at the concert Friday night. And oh man, what a great concert. Was it not? Yes, absolutely. It really was. So I wanted to give you a couple of figures this morning. With the money that we raised, the church raised with Reverend Darlene singing and everything. And everything. We raised $768. The money that was raised when Rhoda was closing out the service, we raised $327. The money raised Friday and Saturday in the blue boxes that we put in the rooms and had out in the hallway and everything for the classes, we were able to raise $757. So for a total, Friday and Saturday, total, we've raised $1,852. Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you, Bobby. Thank you so much. Reverend Christie's got a reading she's going to share with us. Thank you, Bobby. And thanks to each and every one of you. It's been a great weekend and continues to be.
Indeed. Indeed. And just to another announcement regarding the retreat weekend, we do have evaluation forms, feedback forms out on the table in the lobby and also in the Welcome Center. And while you're still in the midst of this love energy from this weekend, we invite you to fill one of those feedback forms out while you can still be in the feeling of your experience of this whole weekend. If you've attended workshops, if you were part of the concert, if you are here today and you're going to be part of this fabulous meal, and every Sunday my house smells like garlic. So we invite you to fill out those forms. It's been a wonderful, wonderful homecoming weekend, and it's so great to see everyone here and to have you joining us online as well. So I wanted to share with you an inspirational reading. It's entitled, The Practice of Coming Home. My final question, how will I know when I have reached the destination? Brings me full circle, and I face the mystery again. Perhaps the truth is that we never arrive, not because the journey is too long and too difficult, but because we have been there all along. I am coming to believe that there is no final destination except to continue to be on the journey and to know that every place along the way is holy. It is a holy place because God is present. I believe that God is calling us to stand on our own ground and know that it is holy, and let our roots grow deep. And yet, at the same time, the journey goes on. It is a paradox, I know, but perhaps we are traveling most faithfully when we know ourselves to be most at home. That's from Judith Smith. This ground is holy ground.
Thank you, Christy. Rhoda's going to share a beautiful song with us. Come on up, Rhoda. For those of you that may not know Rhoda Weaver, she was actually born in the Asheville area, but grew up in Lumberton, North Carolina. She grew up in the Pentecostal church, like I think quite a few of us around here did. She grew up singing. It was just a part of her being. And as you know, she's experienced more life, she's come to recognize God in all beings, God in all people, and God everywhere. And to me, Rhoda does a beautiful job of finding music and blending those familiar songs. Today, she has selected a song by Lauren Daigle that says, "You Say." Would you welcome Rhoda Weaver?
I keep fighting voices in my mind that say I'm not enough. Every single lie that tells me I will never measure up. Am I more than just the sum of every high and every low? Remind me once again, because I need to know. Ooh, oh, you say I am loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I am strong when I think I am weak. And you say I am held when I am falling short. When I don't belong, You have every failure, God. You have every victory. Ooh, oh, you say I am loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I am strong when I think I am weak. And you say I am held when I am falling short. When I don't belong, oh, you say I am yours. And I believe, oh, I believe what you say of me. I believe, oh, I believe, yes, I believe what you say of me. I believe.
Oh, Rhoda Weaver. If you don't know anything about Rhoda's story, man, she's a powerhouse of a voice. And a few years ago, she started literally losing her voice. Found out she's got polyps on her vocal cords, and the doctors at one point said, "You're probably going to never sing again." To which she said, "Well, you don't know who I am." And Rhoda, I just thank you for allowing that presence to sing through you. Show her your love again and show this band. Thank you so much, Rhoda. Thank you. You say. As we celebrate this Sunday together, it is the second week in a 7-week series of a fall study series. Every fall, we pick a book that we explore together. The one that I was guided for us to share together this year is called An Altar in the World by Barbara Brown Taylor. She's an Episcopal priest. Perhaps I should say she used to be an Episcopal priest. She is a professor, teacher. But her study and teaching world religions really led her to begin to realize how she had put God in a box. And for her, the rest of her life has been about how am I in relationship. Like last Sunday, I talked about the face of God, the God that is beyond, the God that is as beside us, and the God that is our very being. And so it's a wonderful exploration. This week, the topic when we enter week 2, there's 2 invitations. She calls us into the invitation to explore what she calls incarnation and groundedness. She calls us into the practice of wearing skin and the practice of walking on the earth. Now, the good news is you have experience in both because you are wearing skin and you are walking on the earth. And so I have decided to call that today, it's the sacred practice of being human. And I think if there's anything that perhaps we're being called into right now is to really understand what that means. I want to share just a little bit in opening that she shares when she begins talking about this. She writes, "Once when I was a guest speaker at a church in Atlanta, I decided to take a look around the sanctuary before the service began. It was a grand old Episcopal church circa 1920. With Tiffany-styled stained glass windows and a striking mural of Jesus emerging from his tomb over the altar. Since I was a good 45 minutes early, I had the place to myself, except for a member of the altar guild who was polishing silver. She was the kind of woman who helped me feel inadequate simply because she was so put together. Her clothes were expensive, every hair was in place, she was beautiful, she was manicured, and she was polishing the silver chalice with a soft gray rag. 'Hey,' I said. 'Hey,' she said with the perfect polite smile. Then she went back to polishing silver, and I went back to checking out the church. She explains how she made her way over to that big painting of Jesus behind the altar, and a lot of Jesus' body was showing, and it really pulled her in. And the woman who was polishing noticed her and she said, "It's beautiful, isn't it?" The pulled together woman in the sanctuary had been watching me through the open door. "It surely is," I said. "But did you ever notice that Jesus has no body hair? Did you notice that he has the underarms of a 6-year-old? And did you notice that his chest is as smooth as a peach?" Her manicured fingernails stopped moving and the smile froze on her face. Without moving her red lips, she said, "I just cannot believe you are saying this to me. I cannot believe you are saying this to me." She goes on to write, "I'm always surprised at how easy it is for me to become an oaf, especially by saying something obvious about the human body in the presence of those so devoted to the soul." And she cracks open and leads us into a conversation that I believe is really worth having. And I hope within the next 20 minutes or so, we can go into it deep enough that it moves you and it opens some personal inquiry and opens you to some blessings as well. I want to ask some questions. When did the physical body become so much less than the spirit it expressed? Why not as precious or holy as the substance that is light being emanated? When did the physical body get viewed as being in the way instead of being the way? When did the host become a wafer and not the individual? Every individual. Why do many see the body of Jesus or their guru or their saint as holy, but negate and hate their own body? A human body is not a body or spirit. A human being is being. It's animation in the vibration of a physical form. It's, as Einstein said, it's spirit and substance coming together. And so how do you perceive literally your physical body? How do you perceive your human form, your incarnation? Barbara goes on to write, "I came late to the understanding that God loved all of me, not just my flesh, but not just my spirit, but also my flesh." I think today she would probably even write that I came late to the understanding that God is all of me, not just my spirit, but my flesh. And what that really, really means. Shalane Harkin is a relatively new poet, and she's sort of blowing up the internet. People are calling her a mystic, and one of the lines that people are quoting now from one of her poems says, "The worst thing we ever did was put God in the sky out of reach, pulling divinity out of the leaf and sifting the holy out of our bones." Isn't that beautiful? The worst thing we ever did was put God up there, out there, in the chosen few. Anywhere but in our very physical being, our presence, and all that constitutes our being, which is multidimensional. Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, told a story quite often. Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, back in the 1800s, founded today the movement that we call Unity. And they never meant it to be about them. They never meant it to be a teaching that encapsulated all the truth. They meant it to be an open community and an open place of spiritual exploration where there was shared reverence and respect and genuine desire to grow together and to be our best. And he told a story from time to time of a mother that he had talked to about her son, and she said her little son woke up one night and he cried out, "Mama!" He was afraid, and she went into his room. And she comforted him and said, "Son, you just had a bad dream. You don't need to be afraid. You're safe. God's right here with you." And then she turned off the lamp and said, "Now, honey, you can go back to sleep. Remember, God is right here with you." And she said as she started to walk away, she heard his little voice say, "But Mama, I want somebody with skin on." From the wisdom of children, I need somebody with skin on. There's such wisdom in that to say it's not an either or, it's a both and. that God is spirit, yes, that God is beyond, yes, that God is this power of intuition and miracles and higher things and all of these things, yes. But we miss the whole point if we don't realize that God is in the hug. God is in the body. God in your body is your greatest teaching. The physical body, our relationship with our own physical body is our first relationship, our most everlasting relationship, and our most powerful relationship with fear and duality. That you, in relationship with your own body and with what's going on inside of you, is the place where you heal and overcome and learn to walk with fear. And you, in your own body, is the way, if you pay attention, you begin to notice how you embody dualism and duality and how that shows up. We begin to broadcast it because we're being it. And that's what we're going to look at over the next few minutes. I always, because I grew up, I think, in the Pentecostal church, for me it's always interesting if I can go to any spiritual text from any faith tradition, but for me, a lot of times I often go to the Bible to find out, was there anything I didn't really take into consideration years ago? And in asking that question this week, I discovered something really, really powerful. And it has to do with the prophet called Elijah. If any of you know the Old Testament, Elijah was probably the most prophet. And by prophet, we mean he was the most powerful, one of the most powerful voices and representations of God. As the Bible, according to the Bible stories, and in Unity, we look at the Bible in a metaphysical sense, meaning we see it for the value that it conveys from generation to generation. We see the symbolism, the symbols of how it is pointing us to our own nature, and it's not so much found in a literal interpretation. So we're always looking for what is the symbolic meaning, and how do these characters tell us something about our nature? Well, Elijah is one of two people in the Bible who, according to the Bible, never died. Elijah was just caught up in a whirlwind and disappeared. The word Elijah, the name, actually means Jehovah is God. Metaphysical, Elijah means the spiritual I am. Elijah is that part of us, of each and every one of us, that is the Spirit expressing. But what I discovered this week that I had just overlooked is something that's found in 1 Kings. That Elijah, who did all these miracles and was seen as being the voice of God and this prophet, reached a point, and this comes from 1 Kings chapter 19, it says he was afraid and ran for his life. Now this was after doing some major miracles, which tells us he still at times had to deal with fear. He was afraid and ran for his life, and he came to a town and he went into the wilderness, and he actually came to a broom bush, sat down and under it and said, I may as well just die. I've had enough. Just take my life. He reached his point of being exhausted. And even though he was the spirit on earth, he reached that point. And this is what I had missed. It says, and all at once an angel touched him and said, get up and eat. And he looked around, and the angel had made him bread over hot coals and brought him a jar of water. And he ate and he drank and he lay down, and the angel said again, get up and eat and drink. And I thought, how often has the angel told me, get up, eat, and drink? That if an angel is going to come down and make some, maybe that was the first angel cake. Maybe that's where angel food cake came from. The first angel food cake. Now we know. It was an Elijah cake to make that cake for you. And so, that which appears to be pure spirit didn't even die, as the story goes, had to eat, needed to eat and rest and drink. And it's a reminder that don't mistake one for the other, that each of us need to do that. And so today we want to look at what does it mean to love the body, to love the physical being? How can you be the best human being you can? And how are you being right now called to be the best embodied presence that you can possibly be? The other thing about Elijah, I think the Spirit was saying, you may know yourself as a prophet of God, you may know yourself as a spiritual messenger, but don't forget the important thing. You are a physical presence in form here and now to take care of that. Now, Elijah, as you know, any of you that know the story, before he went away, he handed his mantle. He passed that down to Elisha. It was a very symbolic passing down. But again, often we make it so out there, we forget the practical. What he was passing along was a physical garment. That the most precious thing I can do is give you a physical garment to remind you that the greatest thing you've come on earth to do is be a physical presence right here in your body. Be the presence of God. It's our goal, our job, that whenever we leave, will we have passed along everything that we could with our whole presence, with our mind, body, spirit presence. If you look at some of the rituals that you find in churches and trace them to, what the origin are, prayer beads, or the rosary as it's called in some traditions, but prayer beads did certainly not begin in the Christian faith. They precede it. A lot of people, when they see rosary, they would see a cross, but the original ones had a cross that looked much more like this. If you can see it, it's called an equal-armed cross. A lot of the original ones had the two arms equal, meaning that we are the embodiment of spirit and matter, heaven and earth, and they are equally important. Isn't it interesting how the other cross has one a whole lot more important than the other? Just an observation to think about what that may mean. The reason for prayer beads are to keep you in your body, no matter how connected a spirit you get, no matter how you perceive yourself as a holy being, as a spiritual being, that it's never more powerful than your very senses. This is meant to keep it in your hands, make it practical, that your senses and your spirit come together as one on earth. And it's not a better than or a less than. They both work together as the fulfillment of the divine idea. When you really think about that, does that excite anybody else the way it does me? I know I'm probably a spiritual nerd, but that does, I love things like that. I had one of the most profound wake-up experiences in my first spiritual community in Lawrence, Kansas. I pointed out Eileen, who's here today from Lawrence. Our church in Lawrence, Kansas is the home of Kansas University. It's a big college town. It's a great town. A lot of professors, some professors came to the church, and we were relatively close to the university, and so when students sometimes would get an assignment to go visit different faith traditions, they would come through our church. And so that happened from time to time, and we always loved it. Well, one day I noticed this particular woman, she showed up, but she kept coming back. I talked to her briefly after service. She kept coming back, a young woman who was going to the university. And then one Sunday she asked to meet with me, and I said, I'd love to meet with you. And so she met me in my office and asked if she could tell me a little bit about her story and that she had some questions. She told me that her name was Eunice Lee, and she eventually shared the story with the whole church, and so I have permission to share it. She told me her name was Eunice Lee. She was an international student from Korea. One of her assignments was to come to different houses of worship. And so she came to ours, but something struck her there, and so she chose to keep coming back. She said, let me tell you a little bit about my story. Now, first of all, let me tell you about her. Eunice was a small woman. She carried herself in a very studious, disciplined, professional manner. She also had a sense of gentleness and grace about her. She was small, as I said, but she had excellent posture and just struck me with a real sense of sincerity. She looked at you when she talked and was very sincere. She said that when I was born in Korea, my parents were married, and I was born, and right as I was born, they separated. And she said in Korea, that is not looked upon very favorably. So she said, what I was evidence of something that was unwanted. I was evidence of a mistake. She said, my parents separated, and for my mother, I hindered her chance of ever marrying again. So neither my mother or my mother's family wanted me. For my father, I hindered his chances for married again, and I became a burden. She said, as a child, I can literally remember being taken from one grandmother's house to the other. Each family would take her to the other side trying to get rid of her. And she said, I finally got old enough that I walked my own self to an orphanage. Now, take that, let that sink in. I walked my own self to an orphanage. And that's where I lived until I grew up. And so I looked at her and I thought, wow. And she said, now, in our culture, we don't talk a lot about God, but you talk a lot about God, she said. She said, and I take notes. And you have said, she said, you say occasionally, frequently, I am an expression of all that is God. And she looked at me and she said, so Reverend, does that mean I have a soul? Now, just like you, I never, up until that moment in my life, had given thought that somebody may really question, did they have a soul? But here I had the gift of a person in front of me. And so I said, Eunice, yes, you have a soul. And we began to talk about that, and it was epiphany for her, and it was an epiphany for me. And she went on to say, so you mean like all of me contains God? I said, yes, honey, all of you contains God. You see, you may think I was helping her, but she was helping me. All of me contains God. And she just began to light up. But these words I will never forget. She said, so that means there are no bad people in the world, just people in bad places. The wisdom of Eunice Lee. Yeah, that's going in my book. I mean, that is profound. She took some information back to Korea. She wanted to share that with people, and we were so excited, that spiritual community, to support her in doing that. Think about that. There are no bad people, just people in bad places. That just sums it all up. That there's no unholy people, there are no unholy bodies, they're just people in bad places. They're just people that are confused, that are not yet awake. But coming to that realization, I want to read Shalane Harkin's entire poem to you. The worst thing we ever did was put God in the sky, out of reach, pulling the divinity from the leaf, sifting the holy out from our bones, insisting that God isn't bursting dazzlement through everything we've made a hard commitment to see the ordinary, stripping the sacred from everywhere to put a cloud man elsewhere, prying closeness from our heart. The worst thing we ever did was take the dance and the song out of prayer, made it sit up straight and cross its legs, moved it of rejoicing, wiped clean its hip sway, its questions, its ecstatic yow, its tears. The worst thing we ever did is pretend God isn't the easiest thing in this universe, available to every soul in every breath. Say available to every human being, to every body. So what does it mean to you to realize that, as she says, that means all of me contains God? What would that feel like for you? To love your body, your being, your physical presence, to be the very best human you can, and wherever you are, to be that embodied presence. In Unity, the co-founder I mentioned, Charles Fillmore, his wife Myrtle Fillmore, most of you know the story. This is back in the late 1800s. She had the diagnosis of tuberculosis with 3 young children. That was a death sentence at that time. The doctors had given her just months to live. When she heard someone say, you're a child of God, you do not inherit sickness, you inherit the life of God. And what she later wrote in healing letters, because, by the way, she lived to be 86 years old. So she had a complete healing, but she was guided to go back and to talk to her body. Later she wrote, sometimes the dear one gets so anxious about what it wants to do that it neglects the body, and that's not fair to the body. Our duty then is to bless our body and to get our thoughts right down into it, to praise its wonderful work, to learn what its needs are, and to arrange and supply for them. God is in that body right there, you know. We need more often to think of our body as being the temple of God, our temple of divine love. One of the questions I ask myself sometime is there anywhere my reverence has not yet reached? Is there anywhere my reverence has not yet reached? I never really thought I had a sense of dualism about my body until in 2011, with a routine exam, they came back with a diagnosis and said, you have breast cancer. And I'm like, no, I don't. Check again. Never, ever thought that would show up on my radar. Never. But it did. And through that experience, and thank God that was 11 years ago, and as you know, to my knowledge, everything is great. And all of us say that to our knowledge, and that's the point. But through that experience, what I realized is I began to feel like my body let me down. And that was the first time in my life. Now, I had felt tired. I'd felt things I didn't want to feel. But it was the first time in my life I really felt like my body let me down. And I had shame around that. And thank God I had spiritual practices and a prayer partner that helped me get in touch with what I was feeling and own it and sit in it and be real with it. And I can tell you today, beyond and much further down the road, it served as such a healing experience because I did not even realize the way that I could feel like my body could let me down as if it was not me, you know? And so within me, it created a kind of congruence that I did not even know was missing. Because yes, we can be let down by things that happen in our body. We can feel disappointment. We can feel experience or pain or shame. We can feel frustrated with the changes that are going on. But we're all going through them, your body too. And when I began to get in touch with that, what it did is it made me cry. Because then I realized all of me just needed to cry. All of me needed to feel the fear, the confusion, the shame. I needed to be able to uncover those beliefs. It's like I told in my class yesterday, sometimes we get caught up in what's an illusion and what is real. If Charlie colored his face with red ink, I wouldn't look at Charlie and say, it's just an illusion, I don't see it. I would say, Charlie, that's interesting. Why'd you cover your face in red ink? The illusion is not that he has a face covered in red ink. The illusion is not you may have a body that has issues. The illusion is not your relationship may be challenged. The illusion is not that may be happen. The illusion is if you think a face with red ink on it has anything to do about the truth of who you are. And it's learning if you think that any situation has to do anything about the wholeness of you. And so it's learning to love all of those things, all of that together. So where in your life are you being called into a greater practice of loving your body, your being, and transcending it? Of being the best human you can and embodying that presence? I'm going to invite the band. The whole band's going to come up here. During COVID, by the time 2001 rolled around, a lot of folks were just struggling. There's a man, his name is Will, I've got it in my notes, his name is Will Norman. Will is from Texas, and when COVID was happening, he was living by himself. He had gone through a lot of health challenges, and he was just so, his body was struggling. He was struggling in every area of his life. And he didn't know what to do. He said, I just wanted somebody to hug me, to be there, to talk to me. I was really, really struggling. And in the midst of all of that, he kept saying, more than anything, I want somebody to be there and to listen. I need a physical presence. I need that. And he said he felt something that said, well, if you need it, Go out and create it. Be it. And he didn't really know what to do, but he thought, all right, he took it quite literal. So he loaded up his tent, and he went down in his neighborhood in Texas. He said it's kind of a busy intersection, and there's a liquor store. And he asked the liquor store, can I set up a tent and put up a sign that says free hugs? And that says listening tent, that I will listen to anyone who wants to talk. And of course the liquor store said, sure, sounds good to us. Put it up. So Will Norman put up a tent and called it a listening tent. And it said listening tent, anyone that wants to come and listen. And he said he was literally blown away. He set up 2 chairs. He was in one and he set up the other. And he said it wasn't very long before people were waiting to come and sit in his listening tent. He was interviewed by the local station in his town, and he said he recalled a man who was on his way to killing himself when he spotted the listening tent. He said he encouraged the man to get help, which he did. And when the man got out of the hospital a week later, the first thing he did was come back to the listening tent to thank Will Norman. Will said when he turned around and started to walk off, he stopped and said, hey man, I love you. And Will looked at him and said, hey man, I love you too. And he told the interviewer, he said, there's a lot of ways to love, but maybe the greatest way to love is to be present to somebody else. It's no coincidence that we walked in this morning and could smell there's food cooking here. Deb Viteri, one of our members, I should add, a proud Italian member. When we said we wanted a catered lunch this Sunday, she said, I'll do it. And I said, wait a minute, you don't understand. It's probably, it's maybe like cater for 100 to 150 people. She said, no, I'll do it. And I said, I don't want you to. She said, Darlene, I'm doing it. I'm going to do it. So we have a member with her 90-year-old Italian mother who prepared to feed 150 people because that's how she wanted to be present and show her love to you. She's not in here, she's in the kitchen. But be sure to hug her. But what made me cry this morning when I walked in is there were like Charlie was in the kitchen straining pasta. There were like busy bees everywhere. It was like this beehive. And I thought that's what this week is about. That we're meant to make it as personal and as sacred as you can be. If I had to cook for 150 people, I'd still be home crying right now. As some of you would be. If some of you had to get up here, you'd be crying. And see, that's the beauty of it. We don't have to do what's not ours to do. The final example and the best example I want to give you is this. When it comes to why do we not see our body? Why don't we show up? We're so busy comparing ourselves to the way we think we should be. We're so busy comparing ourselves to other people. I heard an interview between Barbara Bush, and it was with Barbara Bush as she was coming in as the First Lady, and Nancy Reagan was going out as First Lady. Now, you may remember First Lady Nancy Reagan was very put together, very polished. When Barbara Bush was coming in, she's a different package of energy. She's just a different being. And so one of the reporters got up under her and said, how do you compare yourself to Nancy Reagan? And without skipping a beat, Barbara Bush stopped and said, well, we have a lot in common. Nancy adores her husband. I adore mine. Nancy fights drugs, and I fight illiteracy. Nancy wears a size 3, and my leg's a size 3. And she didn't skip a beat. And I said, you go, girl. It's time for us to embrace your beautiful package and begin to show up, warts and all, what we call, throat polyps and all, whatever they are. Hey, would you be willing to do your best and realize that it's about doing it in this physical body and loving our physical body every step of the way. Let's anchor this into a time of prayer. The song that we've chosen says this. I am that I am has set me to this now moment. Here I am that I am has set me
to this now moment. And here I am. I am the form. I am the heart through which heaven is made known on earth. I am the form. I am the voice. I am the being. I am here now. I invite you to close your eyes. And with your eyes closed, I invite you to smile. There's a spirit that animates your being. And how would you engage that spirit without your physical being? How would you really know that spirit if not through your physical being? Your path to access your God-given potential, your holy nature, your path is through you. Your path to access your God presence is through you. Your path to access God is through yourself. To love yourself, to know yourself, is the home of first love. And only to the degree that we can embody that love within our own frame can we walk on this world as an instrument of that love. Can we begin to broadcast it and sow it out? Many of you are like a dry desert in need of self-love. And you're coming home to that love in this very moment. You're realizing that it is not an either or. The two are as one. And don't struggle with the choice or the feeling you must choose. But you and you alone are that which makes it holy. Your incarnation is the spiritual baptism you have been longing for. Look no further. Touch your hand and feel your God stir. You were sent to earth, a body made, spirit become flesh, heaven embodies on earth. You carry the divine seed in every ounce of your flesh and bone and being, and now it is in your hands. Pun intended. Now it is in your hands. How will you carry it? How will you see it? What will you name it? Will you make it holy by your own consecration and command? Will you dance and love and lift and be lifted? Come home. Come home in body. Come home in community. Come home to love. For I am that I am has set me to this now moment. Here I am. I am that I am has set me to this now moment. Here I am. I am the voice. I am the heart through and as which heaven is on this earth. I am the form. I am
am has sent me to this now moment. Here I am that I am. Touch your own shoulders. Has sent me to this now moment. Here I am. Here I am. Please stand with me. I am the form. I am the form. I am the life. I am the life. I am the spirit. I am the spirit. I am here now. I am here now. I am the form. I am the form. I'm the life. I am the life. I am the being. Am the being. I'm here now. I am here now. Would you turn to a neighbor and say, and you are too, and that's no coincidence. And you are too, and that's no coincidence. And you are too, and that's no coincidence. You are too, and that's no coincidence. Thank you. You may be seated. So how many of you are ready to enter into a new relationship with your very own body? Yeah, that feels good to do that. How many of you would be willing this week to really take some time and think about wherever you are the embodied, I like to say I-N rather than E-M. I am the embodied presence, that you are the embodied presence wherever you go. And what that feels like. I can tell you when you do that, you know that the force is with you, wherever you are and whatever you are doing. I'm going to invite Rhoda to come back up, and I'm also going to ask our ushers and our prayer chaplain to come forward. This week, someone came to me and said, Reverend Darlene, why don't we sing anymore together when we close out the service, and why don't we take the offering anymore? And why don't we take a physical offering anymore? And I started to go into my spiel about COVID, and I stopped my own self, and I said, you know what? That's a good question. Why don't we? That this too shall pass. And so I am happy to invite up our prayer chaplains. We actually have ushers and offering again today. So you probably weren't prepared, but we're going to do it. We're getting ready to create that experience again. We are so blessed that many of you have supported your spiritual community online through your gifts and your giving. There are blue boxes we keep out and about. People can do that. But there's also something very sacred about experiencing this together, that we are in this flow of giving and receiving and exchange. Megan Goshevsky, who I'm going to let a little cat out of the bag, who is now officially the Reverend Megan Goshevsky. Yeah. She's been in an internship with us through the Emerson Institute, and we'll be having a ceremony soon, and you'll hear more about that. But she's holding what we call our prayer box. That reminds us that we're here to pray together. That box sits in the back. If you want to put in a physical prayer request, you can send them to us, and we send them on to Silent Unity, our worldwide prayer center, where we're holding those for you. The blue box, again, represents substance, that we are in this flow of spirit substance that's an exchange. And so give whatever is yours to give in support of what you receive. So we're going to bless the gifts and the giver, and our ushers will have the opportunity to do this the first time since 2019 as Rhoda Weaver sings one of her favorite songs. Welcome, Rhoda, again. Thank you.
I just want to say that I always enjoy. I don't think I've ever come where I did not enjoy a message that Reverend Darlene preached. But today's message really resonated with me, and as she was talking about the vocal issues that I deal with.
Yeah. We so love you. Let it cry. Yeah, just let it go. I love you. I love you so much. We're the church of the runny mascara for good reason. The joyful runny mascara.
But I am 50 years old in May this year, and am finally at a point where I'm, learning to appreciate, me, flaws and all, but this part has been very hard.
Yeah.
Because I always want to do my best.
We bless you. We appreciate you, and we behold the divinity in you.
Thank you. I just always like to do my best, and the things that I deal with, sometimes I'm able to do what I consider my best, and then sometimes my voice does what it wants to, and so
Preach, sister, we know.
So
The bodies go.
I have to embrace that part.
Yeah.
And but I love music, and I love you all. And anytime Reverend Darlene asks me, unless I'm sick with something that's contagious, I'm coming. And so.
Yeah.
So however this turns out, I love you too. Thank you. Thank you. Who here among us has not been broken? Who here among us is without guilt or shame? So often abandoned by our transgressions. If such a thing as grace exists, then grace was made for lives like this. There are no strangers, there are no outcasts, there are no orphans of God. So many fallen, but hallelujah, there are no orphans of God. Come ye unwanted and find affection. Come all ye weary, come and lay down your head. Come ye unworthy, you are my brother. If such a thing as grace exists, then grace was made for lives like this. There are no strangers, there are no outcasts, there are no orphans of God. So many fallen, but hallelujah, there are no orphans of God.
Oh, Rhoda. You know, she selected that song, and I had no idea that I'd be telling a story about Eunice Lee. Just to me, it's amazing how things line up. That was beautiful. When we bring this service to a close, and once again, those of you that are here, would you turn and extend your love to those that many would love to be here. We just reach out to each and every one of you and thank you for being a part of this spiritual community. You truly are a part of our heart. If any of you can stay and will stay, as soon as the service is over, if you head out, you will be served a delicious, home-cooked, by Italian meal that I don't think you're going to want to miss. Even if you thought you had plans, perhaps they just got changed. Please take an opportunity to partake and enjoy this beautiful meal that they're going to feed you. We are going to culminate this time together by asking you to stand and join me in a song that says, "We're part of the family of God." We're part of one family, the family of God, breathing one spirit, living one life. We're in this together, finding our way. Let love be our guiding light, and on course we'll stay. Join someone's hand if you're comfortable. Part of one family, the family of God, breathing one spirit, living one life. We're in this together, finding our way. Let love be our guiding light, and on course we'll stay. Let love be our guiding light, and on course we'll stay. Our closing prayer. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God is over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Be blessed. You are a blessing. Thank you so much. Play it again.